It's time for Speed77 Radio's Motorsports Madness, powered by the staff at Race Chaser Online. Today's racing news, yesterday's racing history, and now here are your hosts, Jacob Seelman, Tom Baker, and Kyle Magda.
Oh, if the weekend was any indication, this next 2 hours is going to be wild, it's going to be wacky, and you race fans may want to fasten your seatbelts because we don't call this Motorsports Madness for nothing. Not only are you about to take a journey with us on the fastest 2 hours of motorsports conversation on the web, you're going to delve into just about anything and everything you might want to know in the world of motorsports. We'll bring it to you here on the Performance Motorsports Network. And good evening, race fans. Jacob Seelman alongside a couple of my Race Chaser Online colleagues tonight. Kyle Magda going to be joining us a little later on in the show, but I do have Tom Baker and Kyle Souza. There's no test on that later, by the way, if you're paying attention. With me here at the round table. And gentlemen, Tom, I will start with you because we are talking about Loudon. Kyle Souza was there, but more importantly, I want to go fresh off the wire and talk about the biggest breaking news, almost story, that hit at about 9 o'clock last night. So I will just ask you point blank, do you believe all the wordings, all the rumors, all the comments about Tony Stewart on Wednesday at this press conference that Stewart-Haas Racing is holding, calling it quits after next year? Buy it or sell it?
Are you asking me if I'm buying that he is actually going to retire?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm asking.
Yes, I am, because otherwise there would be no point in the press conference. If they were going to call a press conference just to say, hey, folks, sorry, the rumors are false, that wouldn't make a lot of sense. So, yes, I am buying it. I do believe that Tony has made the decision. I actually believe that a few weeks ago when Claire B. Lang leaked the tweet, made the tweet about the whole Quint Boyer to H. Scott for a year and then over to the 14 car in 2017, I believe that the pieces to that puzzle were maybe not completely in place then, but I think that at that point there was more fire than not fire because, again, those things don't come out of nowhere. And Tony was quick to deny at that point that he was retiring, but yet sources that we had spoken with had said that this was on its way to being done, or that it was done and just wasn't being announced yet. There's a lot of moving pieces and parts, Jacob, that have to be, as you know, that have to be put into place and cemented with contracts and things like that. And a lot of people to be made happy when you're changing teams and you're bringing one sponsor over, but there's already, existing cars or numbers or sponsors or all of that sort of thing. There's a lot of little things that have to be worked out there. So, yeah, I'm buying that Tony's retiring. And honestly, I think it's great for him. I hope that he finishes up this season on a relatively good note, and that next year the aerodynamic packages will be such that the cars go back to being more mechanical grip focused and more driver input focused the way they were, a few years back when Tony was really at his peak, so that perhaps he can, run competitively up front and go out on a high note in 2016. I just would hate to see him have another year like he has had so far this year, where he just struggles and struggles to even finish in the top 7 or 8.
Kyle Souza, I will turn to you, and I will turn to Loudon, New Hampshire, where you were for our website all weekend long, and ask you this: buy or sell? Are you buying or selling that Matt Kenseth, with his win on Sunday, has jumped from pretty good contender to might just be the championship favorite? Buy it or sell it?
I buy it. He is the championship favorite, Jacob. He put on a show coming up through the field with he and Denny Hamlin. They got to the front, and I honestly think he pressured Kevin Harvick just enough so Harvick could run out of gas. In the media center after the race, Kenseth did deny that. He said, I was giving it everything I had. I tend to believe differently. I tend to believe he got 4 or 5 car lengths behind him, kind of just waited there, stuck it out, and I think he knew that Harvick was really close on gas, and if he let him run out of fuel, he would just be able to coast across to the victory. Hamlin had a right front problem. He mentioned after the race something was going wrong. It wasn't a tire going down. Something may have broken in the right front, but he had to back way off. Kenseth crossed the stripe about 10 seconds ahead with the win, Jacob. So I buy that he's the favorite for the championship right now. Hamlin is a close second, but I still think Kevin Harvick's got to get through Dover. Somehow you got to think he's going to get there, Tom, get through Dover, and he's obviously going to become the favorite, Harvick, if he can do, because he really put on a show yesterday leading the race.
I think both he and Kyle Busch are going to put on a clinic at Dover this coming weekend, because really it's checkers and wreckers for both of them. They've got to get through this first round, and really in order to control their own destiny in any sort of way, you got to win the race and then hope that some others have some misfortune. But I don't think Matt Kenseth was holding anything back. I think Matt Kenseth was giving it all Matt Kenseth had. He didn't really know for sure what Kevin Harvick was going to be doing, and in fact afterward it was said by Rodney Childers that Kevin actually was able to save almost double the fuel that they wanted him to save by the way he was driving the car, but that they figured that the last pit stop they didn't get quite the full amount, Jacob, out of the can, so it didn't completely fill the tank. So I really honestly think that the last 2 weeks, the 4 team has had some uncharacteristic things happen with, as you talked about yesterday. I mean, they probably could have brought him into the pits after the Jimmy Johnson debacle a couple of weeks ago at Chicagoland instead of leaving him out there to blow the tire and crash. And then I thought yesterday, honestly, they could have slowed him down and just, okay, we're not going to win, but if we can finish in the top 4 or 5 and just make it on fuel, that's a whole lot better than 21st and a lot less of a deficit to make up. So I don't know. It's really one of those situations where it's the defending champions find themselves right now on the verge of being shut out in the first round. And, Kyle Busch, with all the good he's done since he came back off the injury, finds himself in the same position. That's the glory of the chase, guys. That's, Jacob, that is really to me, what's so cool about this format is you have got to bring your A game every single week. You cannot points race. You cannot ride. You cannot cruise. You have to be on your game because the competition's so close now, Jake.
It is close. Now, I will refute one point that you made, and I will bring up another point. I'm absolutely refuting that this weekend is win for Kyle Busch. It's not. He is 1 point, 1 position on the racetrack, 1 point out of a transfer spot. If he runs top 5, he will, unless Jamie McMurray or Kevin Harvick wins the race, Kyle Busch will advance with a top 5 finish. I'm not refuting, however, Kyle Souza, and I'm going to toss this one to you, that this is make or break, do or die for Kevin Harvick. So my buy or sell for you is, are you buying or selling that Kevin Harvick wins Dover to advance to the next round?
I'm selling that, Jacob. And I'm selling it. I'm selling that because I think there's other people, and especially one by the name of Jimmy Johnson, that has won Dover more times than I can count on my hands and my toes together. And, Jacob, I think that the Joe Gibbs cars, I honestly do think that they're going to do everything possible to make sure that Kevin Harvick does not get through to the next round. Because realistically, if Harvick doesn't make it through to round number 2 of the Sprint Cup Series championship chase, the Joe Gibbs cars' chances of all 4 of them getting to the finale take a big jump from where they would be if Harvick was still in. Jimmy Johnson's still in there. Joey Logano, Brad Keselowski. Look at Dale Earnhardt Jr. He's 1 point to the good. He was running extremely well yesterday at points, solidly in the top 10, and would have left Loudon 18 points to the good at 1 point in the middle of that race. Instead, he runs out of fuel now. He's only 1 point to the good. McMurray had a mediocre day, but it was enough to put himself in position going to Dover. So, Tom, I'll throw it back to you. Does McMurray now have a chance at going to Dover and pointing his way in, even though his Loudon and his Chicago were, they weren't great, but they were enough. This now is becoming not finishing the top 15 for these guys. This is becoming run in the front and a make or break situation now at Dover.
Sure he does. He has a chance. I mean, I don't think it's a great chance. I'd give him maybe a 30%, 40% chance. But here's the deal. I mean, I'm disagree with Jake on Kyle Busch. I know what the numbers say, but you can't go into that race with the mentality that, well, as long as we finish in the top 5. No, because the 4 car is going to be desperation mode all day. He's going to want to lead every lap. He's going to want every bonus point. He's going to want the win. You cannot go in and look at that and say, well, as long as I know that at the end of the day, it is very possible for him to finish in the top 4 or 5 and still make it in. But, these guys have got to treat this like, Kyle, this is checkers or wreckers for both of those guys, because neither one of them can afford to let up for a second and have someone else like a McMurray step up and bite them and knock them out. It's a very close situation right now.
And I think Earnhardt Jr. is in the same position, Tom.
Yes,
he's got to be he's got to be on the aggressive. He's got to run in the front. But you also got to look at, and Jacob always likes to bring up numbers. How about the numbers Kyle Busch has in the chase in his career? That's coming into play now. I know he was running solidly yesterday, but that car was not competitive enough to challenge for the win the way it was when the tire went down, which is still bizarring, I believe, the team, because they were extremely loose on that run. Listening to the radio communication, the right front tire went down. So was it a malfunction? Did he run something over? And Jacob, I don't know really, but the numbers on Kyle Busch's historic past in the chase for the championship are really going to bring into question that he honestly may not advance to the first round after coming back from an injury and putting the people on shock in the Sprint Cup Series world.
He needs to advance to the next round, in my opinion. He needs to keep this storied run alive. I think that's the story right now, even if Harvick misses the cut for round 2. Kyle Busch needs to stay alive in this, in my opinion. We'll talk more Chase and we'll talk more Loudon when we come back. We're going to catch this up for you, and when we come back, more of Motorsports Madness here on the Performance Motorsports Network, the voice of motorsports.
You own a performance car and you know how to drive, but you want to learn real performance driving. Well, Bunky, get that car off the street and onto the track. Summit Point Motorsports Park, the Mid-Atlantic's premier road racing facility, located just over an hour from D.C. in nearby Summit Point, West Virginia, is the place to go. And you'll find that Friday at the track is going to give you what you need. For less than a monthly car payment, you can attend this regularly scheduled one-day instructional event in your street car on one of Summit Point's 3 world-class road racing circuits. You'll receive classroom instruction, skid pad instruction in their cars, including front and rear skid control, and 4 20-minute in-your-car instructional sessions from a professional instructor. Have fun, go fast, and really learn how to drive. Call 304-725-8444 for class schedules and details. That's 304-725-8444. Friday at the track at Summit Point Motorsports Park.
Green light. Hey girl, school zone. I'm getting hungry. Car changing lanes. You want to meet me for pizza? Stop sign. Intersection clear. Yeah, street. Pizza sounds good. Ball in street? Girl in street!
It's hard to concentrate on 2 things at once, like texting and driving. Stop the text, stop the wrecks. How will you stop texting and driving? Tell us at stoptextstopwrecks.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Here's an important message from RAD and the station.
Hi, this is Bob Sheehan from Blues Traveler for RAD, recording artists against drunk driving. I like to party just as much as the next guy, maybe even more, but the one thing I won't do after I've had a few is get in the car and drive. Don't blow it. Always choose a designated driver. Remember, music lives and so should you.
Motorsports Sales Professionals. Performance Motorsports is looking to build a team of experienced media sales professionals to represent our programming to the industry's top companies, magazines, and racing series. If you have motorsports sales or marketing experience, know how to work with agencies, understand social media, and are incredibly creative when it comes to working with clients and promotions, then we want to hear from you. Top performers are richly rewarded. Your imagination is the only limit here. Call 717-749-0444. That's 717-749-0444, or email us at scorpionradiogroup@gmail.com. You want to ask for Sue.
Hi, this is Tommy Barrett, driver of the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour. Now back to more race talk from the Speed77 radio crew on the Performance Motorsports Network.
And we are back here on PMN talking more motorsports and going through just about everything that could have happened and did at Loudon, New Hampshire for the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series Championship run, the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series, the Whelen Modifieds. We'll get to all of that in just a minute. And in fact, Kyle Souza, it is a soundbite that everybody was talking about on Sunday afternoon following the Cup race, and one that you and Tom and I all kind of left with our mouths on the floor for a second, because the 2012 Sprint Cup champion, i.e. Brad Keselowski, for those who may not be up on their math skills and timelines, left us all stunned, I think, when he got out of the race car. Let's set the stage. About 2/3 of the way through the race, it was right before Kevin Harvick had taken the lead, so maybe 95 laps to go or so, Souza. We get a restart with Brad Keselowski and Greg Biffle on the front row. Biffle is the leader. He's the control car. Brad steps on the gas before Biffle has gotten to that second red line, which is the end of the restart zone. NASCAR, seeing this, even though Keselowski gave the spot back, black flags him for, quote, jumping the restart. I said at the time I wasn't a major fan of this. I'll say it again. I wasn't a major fan of the call, but boy, Brad's line afterwards, and I quote, "It's an entertainment sport. It's not a fair sport." I didn't know what to make of it. I was quite literally stunned at that Brad would be that blunt in his post-race interview.
Well, Jacob, today NASCAR did announce they would not be penalizing him for those quotes, which
really,
wow. And in my opinion, they shouldn't. He is speaking his mind, which he can do to an extent. But if you take a look at the video, and I've broken this video down multiple times, I actually was on pit road for this restart of that race, right near the restart box. And it was evident immediately to me that he had accelerated before Biffle on the track. And I waited on pit road, of course, at that point with no audio in my ear. And I was out of the media center, so I wasn't getting the full scope. But as soon as the two went posted on the board, I said, they did it to somebody. And Tom Baker, they had to do this. In my opinion, they had to set a precedent for somebody. In the drivers' meeting yesterday, there was a clear videotape that was shown to the drivers immediately at the start to show them exactly the restart box. And there were no questions for race directors about the restart box or anything from the drivers. No drivers raised any questions about this. They watched the tape. They went to the race with that knowledge, and NASCAR warned these guys on every restart before it happened. They communicated back and forth with the spotters to say, listen, you may have almost jumped this one. Watch out on the next one. And Keselowski, if you watch the tape, definitely did accelerate, in my opinion, before that box, Tom. It's a tough situation for NASCAR to have to make this call, especially against a chaser, but they had to make the call based on what they saw.
Okay. I disagree with you completely, and I'm going to explain two things here. First off, let me reference the specific incident yesterday. Okay, I saw the same video everybody else did. No sooner did Brad start to hit the gas and the 16 car either checked up or slammed the brakes, because he got rear-ended and caused a chain reaction that could have wrecked 3 or 4 cars. I think when Brad started to jump, Biffle then saw him start to go and basically jackrabbited and baited him, made it look worse than it was, so NASCAR would make the call. Where was NASCAR's determination to make a call on the restart last week at Chicagoland with Jeff Gordon? That was much more blatant than what Brad Keselowski did yesterday, and Brad never actually had the lead. The minute he started to pull out, Biffle went and took the lead, and Brad gave it to him. He was never really out front. I thought that specific call was complete and utter nonsense. There wasn't enough of an advantage to make the call, and I just thought that was that, because that killed Brad. At that point, his chance to win was over. Now, here's my part two. NASCAR shouldn't have themselves in a position to make calls on restarts. Period. We have a flagger for a reason, Jacob. We need to go back, get rid of these stupid restart boxes that force judgment calls. We make rules that we can't consistently enforce. So get rid of all these stupid restart boxes, and the same goes for short tracks. The green flag gets waved by the flagger. When the flagger waves the green, you go. You've got 28 million video cameras. If the flagger's starting the race on restarts and you jump, you either jumped or you didn't. Was the flag out yet? No. Okay, you jumped, you go to the back. Simple as that. It's a stupid rule that they even use these restart boxes, and it's really sad that something as picky as that, Jacob, may have cost Brad Keselowski dearly in this chase, because every point matters, and that hurt him big time.
Well, it didn't hurt him nearly as bad as we thought it was going to. He was able to make up 13 spots from, he ended up almost getting all the way back to the top 10 at the end of this, and as such has, I think, an 18-point buffer, if my math is correct, headed to Dover this weekend. So it could have been far worse than it was for Brad. And, I think barring absolute disaster, he should easily advance to the next round of the chase. But it's a story that we're going to continue to watch. And basically my opinion on it is, if this is the precedent NASCAR is setting, it needs to be the same the rest of the chase. Now, you've set your precedent. Now back it up. All we want is consistency here. So obviously we're going to be following that story the rest of this chase. Kyle Souza, you were also following a lot of stories not unrelated to the Cup race, because they happened on Saturday. We had a truck race. We had a modified race. I want to talk trucks first, because it was a fun truck race. I was very entertained by this, despite the fact that at the end of the day, Austin Dillon could do no wrong. He led every practice. He led every session of qualifying with a new track record. He led the most laps, and he won the race. Does it get any better than this?
Well, I don't think it could have gotten any better for him. But the man that really kind of surprised me, Jacob, on Saturday was Cole Custer. He was honestly a mediocre day for Custer, and it surprised me more to the fact that there was less passing in the truck race than the Sprint Cup race, which kind of amazed me. Often at Loudon, it is single file, and it is kind of getting line, and, if you're fast enough, you'll get by. But the trucks there normally have enough passing in the front of the field to make it interesting. Not to say there wasn't. I think Kyle Busch had the second best truck to Dillon and should have finished where he did on Saturday, but Dillon was just unstoppable. The way that truck rolled through the center of the corner and cut coming up off was better than I think I've seen a truck run Loudon in the history of the trucks going there. John Hunter Nemechek was strong at times, couldn't seal the deal. Matt Crafton had a great start to the race, charged up through Jacob, but he couldn't seal the deal when it mattered most. Dillon had the best truck, and in my opinion, Jacob, the best truck all weekend did the thing that the top truck should do in the race, is finish the deal and win the race.
Fair enough. I'll buy that. Tom, two things here for you. Number one, Kyle, mentions Kyle Busch, and Kyle Busch did something that I never in my life have seen anybody do at Loudon, much less a truck. He went 4 wide going into turn 3 and made it stick. That, plus the fact, on the flip side of the incredible coin, Tyler Reddick may have torpedoed his championship chances a couple of spins. He's 19 points back. Unless he wins a couple of races, I'm putting a fork in the 19 truck for the title. I say he's done.
Well, I'll address the Reddick piece first. I agree with you. It's unfortunately that was a crucial race for Tyler, and he really needed to finish up front. And I really am surprised I'm really surprised that he had the kind of a day he had. Just an uncharacteristic off day for him, and I'd like to see him come back, win a couple, like you said, just to get himself back into it. It was a better story at 3 trucks than what I think is now going to be a 2-truck show, pretty much, with Eric Jones and Matt Crafton. But I agree with that. And Kyle Busch, look, he's Kyle Busch. Kyle's never been afraid to take anything 3, 4, or even 5 wide if he thinks he can get away with it. So, it's I was impressed, but that's one of those hero or zero moves that you make, and you either look like the hero or you have about 4 cars in a heap, or trucks in this case, and then you look like the zero. So he's been a driver on a mission, Kyle Souza, ever since he came back, and he's certainly in the truck. He feels like he's 10 feet tall and bulletproof.
Well, Tom, he almost has to feel that way, because I don't think there's anybody out there in the Camping World Truck Series that is as fierce and as aggressive on that track. He'll put his truck basically anywhere to make the move he needs to make. Jacob, switching gears for just a minute, I'm going to give you a buy or a sell. Do you buy that Doug Coby had no idea at what he actually did? He says, quote unquote, modifieds happen on the last lap. And if you haven't seen the tape, ladies and gentlemen, it is up on Facebook, and it is causing some chaos on Facebook. Go check that out. Jacob, do you buy or sell that Doug Coby wrecked Ryan Preece on the final lap of that race, or do you think that Preece slowed in that video and Doug had nothing else to do but run into the back of him?
Well, first off, Kuza, if you haven't shared the video to the Race Chaser Online Facebook page for the rest of Race Chaser Nation, please do, because I've seen the video, and I would love to hear the opinion from some fans. As far as your buy or sell, I'm buying that modifieds happened, but I'm also buying that Doug Coby may have been a little bit more aggressive than he needed to be on that last lap. I don't think Doug meant to wreck Ryan. I do think he meant to get him out of shape.
Just wanted to rattle him?
Yeah, there you go, Tommy. I buy that he was trying to rattle his cage a little bit, to use an old Earnhardtism. But, I don't think he meant to wreck him. I do think he meant to cost him 5 or 6 spots when he moved him up the racetrack, but it's just one of those deals, and now we got one heck of a championship battle. 3 guys within 11 points, but I'm also buying what Ryan Preece has been suspected of saying, or that I've heard through the grapevine, that Doug Coby may well not finish the final 2 races of the season, beginning with this weekend's Napa Fall Final at Stafford Motor Speedway. Kuza, it was great to have you at Loudon this weekend, and looking forward to having you back on the Stock Car Steel SRI Motorsports show on Thursday as well.
Yeah, it should be a great Thursday night. I'll fully go into what happened in that Wheel and Tour race, and tell you how Patrick Emerling came away with a second-place finish, his best career, and we hope to hear from Doug Coby Thursday on that show, and we can really get his side of the story then a couple days after.
Oh, it's going to be fun, isn't it? We're going to do some business and continue onward with Motorsports Madness around the turn talk. Open wheel, Joel Sebastianelli's got F1 drama to bring to the round table. After this, you're listening to Motorsports Madness on PMN, the Performance Motorsports Network.
Do you love the sound of high-revving motors and the smell of burning rubber? Do you want to get your car sideways right at the ragged edge of control? If you've always wanted to try drifting or learn to improve your drifting skills, Summit Point Motorsports Park, the Mid-Atlantic's premier motorsports facility, has the expert instructors and the specialized track to teach you how to drift and the skills necessary to drift competitively. From skid pad to open sessions, Summit Point Motorsports Park has the safe and open environment that allows drifters of all skill levels, new to intermediate to get sideways and smoking. With a focus on safety and the skill set necessary to drift competitively, Summit Point Motorsports Park's Drift Nirvana is just the thing for you. Call for your reservation today, 304-725-8444. Or for more information, go online, summitpoint-raceway.com, or you can email them at office@bsrinc.com. Drift Nirvana, getting you sideways the right way.
A boy born in Joplin, Missouri was fascinated by anything with wheels and a motor. The odds of him going on to fascinate millions with his talent? 1 in 260,000. The odds of this born racer having 157 career top 10 finishes in NASCAR? 1 in 125 billion. But every driver seeks the pinnacle of their achievements. The odds of him winning both the Daytona 500 and the Brickyard 400 in the same year? 1 in 195 million. The odds of a child being diagnosed with autism? 1 in 68. I'm NASCAR driver Jamie McMurray, and my niece has autism. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs. Early diagnosis can make a lifetime of difference. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
You're listening to the Performance Motorsports Network, your authority on motorsports of all types. Be listening for the most accurate and up-to-the-minute coverage of every motorsports activity that you enjoy on a daily basis. Be it NASCAR, be it IRL, be it Formula One, be it drag racing, be it dirt track, off-road, props, hulls, whatever. We are your source for motorsports. Performance Motorsports Network. Time now for Open Wheel Central with our resident wine and cheeser, Joe Sebastianelli. Here to pop the cork is Race Chaser Online's managing editor, Jacob Seelman.
I'm popping the cork on what I think will be a very interesting round of Open Wheel Central here on Motorsports Madness. Welcome back to the Performance Motorsports Network, and I'm just going to get right down to the nitty-gritty. Joel Sebastianelli, I like numbers, and I'm going to toss you one, 41, because that would be the number of wins that Lewis Hamilton now has. He did what Lewis Hamilton does, goes out, wins another race, 8 on the season, and levels with Ayrton Senna for what is now 4th on the all-time wins list for Formula One. He's back.
He is back. I don't really think there's much of a surprise about that. I think Nico Rosberg putting his car P1, I don't think that was a surprise either, but it certainly goes to show that Mercedes was back. Any of the questions we had about Singapore were answered with this one race. I think that there was a big overreaction, and some of it was not an overreaction. Some of it was just our inclination to be excited about the fact that Mercedes wasn't a big factor, and there was way more parity last week than there had been before throughout last season and this season as well. But Mercedes didn't lose any horsepower. There was no big damage done to any of the team chemistry, to any components on that car. They just had one off week. And like I said last week, the bad news was, yeah, they didn't finish on the podium, but the good news is they're still Mercedes. And Mercedes was back with a 1-2 finish. Niki Lauda can whine all he wants about the fact that Mercedes wasn't on TV very often, and he has already, but that's just because they pulled away. Hamilton by 18 seconds over his teammate, 20 seconds over Sebastian Vettel, nearly 21. It was a Mercedes-dominated weekend, a Silver Arrow show again in Suzuka. I think we all expected it, even if it was a begrudging sort of expect.
This is true. I want to talk tech, so let's have some tech talk here for a few minutes, Joel, because actually a lot of the news from over the weekend in Formula One revolves around engines. Not necessarily what's in the motors, but rather who's getting them. So I want to start with the Ferrari side of engines, and then I'll get to the Mercedes side of engines, because the Ferrari side of engines is currently locked in a little bit of a fight. Red Bull has basically issued an open threat. They want equal motors to the Ferrari house motors for 2016, or they're out and Toro Rosso is out. So my question to you is there any way on this planet that they actually get what they want? I mean, really?
You know, I think there's two sides to this. And the first one, the one that comes up immediately without much thought, is if I'm Ferrari and Red Bull says that to me, I laugh in their face and say, so what? What do I care if you leave the sport? I do not care one bit. You can take this offer or you can leave it. But the more you think about it, Ferrari has said that unlike Mercedes, and they didn't use those exact words, but they threw some shade at Mercedes when they talked about this earlier, when Mercedes refused to supply Red Bull. Ferrari had said that in the sake of competition and for what's good for the sport, we will absolutely enter talks with them, and it will elevate our team to race even better. Because the pressure is going to be on with another strong rival. And I think that's the approach that ought to win out here. It's very bad for all of Formula One if Red Bull leaves. It may be good for Ferrari and Mercedes in the short term, but in the long term, it's actually really bad. So is Red Bull going to be stuck with one-year-old engines? No. And that's what they're really protesting here. Are they going to get the best engines that Ferrari has to offer? Yes, on paper. You can bet your bottom dollar and everything you own that Ferrari will deny it all season long when Red Bull isn't racing in front of them. But are they really going to be getting the best engines that are on par with Scuderia Ferrari? That I don't think so. For once, I don't think this is an empty threat. I think Red Bull means it, and I think that Ferrari can reach some sort of a compromise here where they can still supply Red Bull engines and decent engines without making them one-year-old and without giving them perhaps some sort of competitive edge over the Scuderia themselves, which would be really embarrassing.
Okay, so how big of a hit is it to Formula One if Red Bull and Toro Rosso, basically, so 4 cars in total, end up leaving at the end of the year? How big a hit is that?
Well, it would be a huge hit. First of all, there's car count. Second of all, there's the parity issue, that Red Bull is a team that has the finances to compete with Ferrari, with Mercedes, with these powerhouse teams. They have the money. They don't necessarily have the engine power now, but with all this talk about 2018, I have to think that Audi is becoming a stronger possibility with Red Bull. Of course, VW Group is going through all sorts of issues right now that have nothing to do with racing. And that's pretty bad for the brands. And I kind of wonder, and I don't have an answer to this question, but I do wonder how that affects their prospects of going into Formula One. But I think that if they're looking to move, then Red Bull can't just leave the sport and come back in. I would think they'd have to stay. So Ferrari is the best option that they're going to have, unless they really wanted to do business with Renault again, which for them to come crawling back, I don't think I necessarily see that either, even though Renault sounds as though it's pretty much a guarantee that they're going to be back in the sport, taking over Lotus for 2016. I think it's a huge hit, and it's less about the short-term hit than it is about the long-term, because there's such a domino effect that would come if Red Bull and or Toro Rosso left the sport, especially if they weren't bought out right away, which seems as though there would be no prospects to do that right now. So I think it's a huge hit, and I can't accurately say what all of those dominoes are going to be, but they're going to be really bad for the sport. F1 needs Red Bull, and I think in a way Ferrari kind of needs Red Bull too. So I expect that at some point these two sides are going to smooth something over, and Red Bull has got to start knocking on every single door and calling every single phone that they have with the people over at Audi and VW Group, because if they want to ever win another world championship again, it's going to have to come post-2018 if they do choose to go into the sport.
All right. Now, I know Tom was super excited about this next bit regarding engines, and I'll let you get your 2 cents in, and then you can let him get his 2 cents in. But how about Toto Wolff and the kids at Mercedes saying that they're giving motor power next year to Manor Marussia? How about that for an upgrade up the grid?
Well, I would have to say that excited might not be the exact word I wanted there.
Well, okay, fine.
I'm curious, to say the least. I mean, I guess my first question to you, and I guess it would be a question for Joel as well, is whether or not the equipment that Manor Marussia has is good enough. I mean, sometimes you can have a championship motor in a 10th place car and it's still a 10th place car. I'm not really sure, Joel, if I'm curious what your take is, because I just kind of looked at this and said, well, it can't hurt, but I don't know if it's going to be the only thing they need to do to step up and play for the win here. What is your 2 cents on that?
Oh, well, that's exactly it. It means something, and again, like you just said, it can't hurt. But don't forget, I mean, they have Ferrari power this season, and they're still running at the back of the grid. They've got a year-old car. There's way more that goes into winning and running up front and simply engine power. And a lot of those other pieces, not only have they not fallen into place, I'm not sure they exist right now. Manor has been an elephant in the room of sorts since it was announced that they would return in Formula One. And let's not forget about all these promises they made. Oh, we're going to debut a chassis sometime around the European leg.
Yeah.
Haven't heard about that. I mean, we haven't heard about anything that they've said that they were going to do, and I'm not surprised by any of it, but people aren't paying attention to them, and there's a lot of uncomfortable questions to be asked that may not have answers right now. I think locking down Mercedes power is a good thing. Worth noting that it isn't officially locked down. It is on standby until Lotus's future is announced, but Renault has bailed Lotus out of financial administration as of this week. So you would have to think that that's almost a guarantee that Renault is going to take over Lotus and that deal is going to be finalized.
Yeah, it just sort of seemed to me like I didn't want to use the phrase polishing a turd, but, something along those lines. I mean, I just don't see that being the difference between where they're running now and, steady top fives, Jacob.
Well, that's exactly right, and I think I said 8th to 12th maybe as far as what Manor Marussia could do maybe by the end of next year. Now, Joel, my third and final engine point for you is regarding the point you just brought up. Not only has Renault bailed Lotus out of administration, they actually did on Sunday morning sign a letter of intent to buy a controlling stake in the Enstone-based team. So it looks like we will see a full Renault Works team out of Lotus in 2016.
Which I think is great for Renault. This is a huge step for them. They've been out as a factory team since the whole Crashgate issue at Singapore in 2008. Great to see them back. I think that Renault is going to go through a resurgence. I think they're going to get that engine power back. Of course, anytime there's good news, there's bad news. And the bad news is they locked Pastor Maldonado again for another year. So for reasons outside of engine power, we may not see them running up front right away. But I think they're headed in the right direction, and they're not going to be bankrupt, so they got that going for them, which is nice.
Yeah, they do have that going for them. Yeah, it is a plus.
That always helps.
I want to throw one final bullet at Joel before we go to break, and it's an IndyCar bullet. I'll shift gears for just a second, Joel, because the quote of the day came out of IndyCar, and it came from one of my favorite people in the sport. Everybody's cheering. James Hinchcliffe got back in an IndyCar today. Sam Schmidt was up on the pit box, and Sam's getting ready to call Hinch into pit road for the first time. And in classic Mayor of Hinchtown fashion, the response that Sam gets is, "With all due respect, boss, I am never coming in, ever."
Everything about this has been perfect. Seeing an IndyCar racing at Road America again, seeing James Hinchcliffe behind the wheel of an IndyCar again, it was just so great. It's a feel-good story. Sometimes when drivers go through horrible injuries like this, Felipe Massa is a great example where it seems as though they're just missing something when they come back. I don't think James Hinchcliffe is going to be like that at all. I think he's going to have a huge 2016, not miss a beat. He's really lucky, and he's lucky to have the support that he does in IndyCar. We're all going to be lucky to see him back on the grid at Road America in 2016. Can't wait.
Oh, and the drivers were loving it. Everybody was behind him all day during the test session today. It was a lot of fun. Joel, always appreciate the time, and we will see you next Monday here on The Madness. We're doing some business coming back, talking more motorsports here on The Madness, so stay with us. You're listening to the Performance Motorsports Network, the voice of motorsports.
Okay, so Sarah, I'm dropping you off at Emily's?
Yep.
And Josh, you're going to?
Soccer, Dad. Soccer practice.
Right. Oh, by the way, I just wanted to let you know when I pick you both up, I'll be wearing my short shorts.
What?
No!
Yep, and my dorky dad hat, and I'm gonna do my dad dance for all your friends. They'll love it!
Seriously? Why?
Because I like my short shorts. Of course, I could be talked out of it if you guys would just buckle up your seatbelts without giving me a hard time.
It's important to get your kids to buckle up for safety, no matter what it takes. And sometimes, all it takes is your parental powers of persuasion.
Okay, we're buckling up.
See, all buckled.
Good choice. I'll just have to do my dad dance at dinner time. What?
No!
Do what you have to make sure your kids are wearing their seatbelts, even on short drives. Never give up until they buckle up. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council. Visit safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup for more information.
Parents, your son or daughter has had their license for a while now, but you want to make sure they're prepared for any situation they may face on the road. High school driver's ed doesn't teach them to drive defensively. They need to be prepared for any highway emergency. For less than a month's insurance, and a whole lot less, BSR instructors at Summit Point Motorsports Park in nearby Summit Point, West Virginia, will teach your son or daughter how to respond instantly and positively to unexpected situations on the road. BSR's specialized accident avoidance training teaches swerve to avoid maneuvers at highway speeds, ocular driving, which focuses driving attention on ways to avoid accidents, vehicle dynamics and feedback, skid control and skid recovery, threshold braking on straights and progressive braking on curves, and off-road recovery techniques. This is stuff driver's ed simply doesn't teach. So call BSR today, 304-725-8444. Give your kid the skill set needed to drive safely and responsibly on the highway. That's 304-725-8444.
This is a test to find out if you know it all when it comes to children. Name one of the leading killers of U.S. children age 1 to 13. What's the best way to protect children in a car crash? At what age and size should a child start using a booster seat?
Don't assume you know it all when it comes to car seats for your child. Go to safercar.gov/the-right-seat and know for sure. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Ryan Priest, driver of the number 6 TS Haulers, modified in the Wheel and Modified Tour. Now back to Speed77 Radio's Motorsports Madness on PMN, the Performance Motorsports Network.
Welcome back to the Madness. Jacob Seelman, Tom Baker around the round table. Kyle Magda going to be joining us shortly. But before we get into all the fun stuff, Tom, there was other fun stuff going on away from the NASCAR world this weekend, and I want to talk straight liners for a second. Yeah, there was other things than NASCAR.
Straight liners.
Yeah, we're getting somewhere here. Let's talk straight liners for a minute, because the NHRA had round 2 of their championship over the weekend, and boy, we had some fun. Del Worsham and Antron Brown continued to do what they do in the Nitro class. Both of them are now 2 for 2 in the playoffs. Antron is the one that I'm specifically looking at first, because not only is he on a roll, he's on a rampage. He won his 4th straight NHRA countdown event at the Gateway Motorsports Park on Sunday afternoon, and I believe it was his 3rd consecutive win on the tour this year. I mean, there's no stopping him. He wants another championship, and boy, the way he looks right now, I think that everybody else is powerless to stop him at this point. I mean, Tony Schumacher went out in round 2. Antron basically destroyed the rest of the top fuel field when you've got a teammate in Sean Langdon who was beating you in Alan Johnson's equipment. You put him in DSR equipment, and he doesn't get too far. I mean, it's just one of those years that it looks like it's kind of maybe meant to be for Antron and that whole Matco Tools team. I mean, they've been unbelievable.
Well, they really have. And any time that you are in a situation where you can say, I've won the last 4 straight at this track, I'd say mastery is the appropriate word. It really has been a season to remember for him, and as you said, maybe even the perfect dream season. Doesn't get much better than this. And that track, that is always an interesting weekend, because you you usually see a little bit of variety. But the last few years, Antoine Brown has just made it his perfect playhouse. And, I don't know. I never could figure out why in the drag racing sphere, if you want to call it that, one driver, I know on an oval track or even a road course, there are certain drivers that just take the certain tracks. I don't know what it is about, a drag race course that allows for that exactly. But boy, Antron Brown is certainly, he's certainly demonstrated it, and you got to hand it to him. I mean, he's on his game right now, and he shows no signs of slowing down really either.
No, nor does Del Worsham, who had 0 wins coming into the playoffs and is going on a Tony Stewart-esque run right now in that
really
Connie
Kalitta.
The Connie Kalitta DHL car. Won his 2nd consecutive race. He's been marching. He beat, he beat Matt Hagan, who's been the king of funny car here of late. He's the defending champion, and he ran the 2nd fastest ET in history over the weekend. However, he didn't run within 1% to certify it as a national record, while Del Worsham ran the 3rd quickest time in history and did certify it as a national record, meaning Worsham not only got max points for the win, he got 20 bonus points for the national record and now has almost a full race lead. He's got 90 points over Hagan, and Jack Beckman drops to 4th. I mean, he went out in round 2 to Cruz Pedregon. I mean, I don't know, peaking at the right time just isn't the only thing to describe this. It's almost like DSR and the Don Schumacher funny car teams are crashing and burning here.
Well, I might add that in true Junior Johnson, Darrell Waltrip fashion, Worsham not only took the win, but when he got to the finish line, the engine exploded a ball of fire. So yeah, I don't know if that means anything, but it was certainly spectacular, or as Brad Keselowski would say, entertaining. I mean, it was, again, you're right. It does seem as though DSR is just really running into the skids here, which is a little perplexing because they're usually so rock solid, but it's not just one driver, it's the whole team. And, I don't know. I mean, I think we need to pay close attention to this battle in funny car going down the stretch, because momentum is everything in this sport. I've said it. And right now, I'd say advantage Worsham in that sense. So, Schumacher's got to come out of the box here strong at the next race and really, put the flag back in the ground, so to speak, that, okay, we slipped up a little, but this is still our control. Right now, I would say Worsham's in pretty good shape here as long as he keeps doing what he's doing. Schumacher and the team, that whole bunch has got to prove that they can go out and knock him back off now. So that's why I've said it all along. I love NHRA because it's just a different situation than the road courses. You never know from week to week. There are so many drivers capable of doing it. And it's such a quick thing. I mean, it's, basically 4 seconds to glory. So it's really, that's what makes it for me. And I love it when you see a Worsham all of a sudden come out of nowhere and establish himself and peak at just the right time going down the stretch here. It should be fun to watch.
Yeah, and you talk about parity and different drivers being able to establish themselves. There were 2 more that did that in the pro classes over the weekend.
Yes.
Drew Skillman, the rookie, beat his teammate, who happens to be the championship leader in pro stock, Erica Enders. They went to the final in Indianapolis when Erica destroyed Skillman to win the U.S. Nationals. Skillman comes back 2 races later and takes a little bit of revenge. I know Erica's car spun the tires about mid-track, but, 4 straight final rounds for her. She's got a 113-point lead, but I love a rookie finally getting to victory lane. I said it when Richie Crampton won in Morgan Lucas's car about a year and a half ago now, and I'll say it again. we don't get enough of these first-time winners in NHRA because you have people like John Force, Greg Anderson, Jason Line, and Tony Schumacher who just keep winning races and keep winning races and keep winning races. So it's a fresh face. I love that.
Well, I do too, and again, I think this just goes, as you said, it goes to show the parity, and you know, I think it's great that the teammates are so much a part of this too, and I've always thought Erica Enders is just, I think she's awesome, and you know, Skillman just basically blew her away this past week. You know, Erica had a little issue with spinning the tires fairly early in that one, and just wasn't able to sustain the momentum to the end. But you know, I just, again, I think there's so much to be determined throughout the various divisions of NHRA as we go down the stretch here to the title. And I actually was pretty impressed with Arana again getting another win in the Pro Stock motorcycle division too. And I always
Hector Jr.
Hector's always fun to watch, and he's quite a character. And it's, you know, it's just the straight line stuff has been just a joy this year to watch and kind of get more familiar with. And you know, I've had a couple of Sundays where I haven't been able to really focus on it, but I try to keep up at least with the highlights. And there's just some great personalities in this form of racing, and for anybody that doesn't spend a lot of time watching drag racing, you really should. I mean,
just for the record, Hector Jr. had a pretty good weekend. He won the Pro Stock motorcycle main over his father, Hector Arana Sr., and he asked his girlfriend Nicole Nobile to marry him, and she said yes.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
It was a really good weekend for that camp. And, I mean, he's now 34 points behind Andrew Hines for the championship lead. We thought the Harley-Davidsons were going to dominate Pro Stock bikes. They haven't done that. Again, parity. So we'll keep an eye on it. Kyle Magda's excited about NHRA this weekend because they're coming to his backyard in Reading, Pennsylvania for the Keystone Nationals at Maple Grove. So that'll air Sunday night, next Sunday night on ESPN2, I believe. So check your local listings for that one. We're going to handle some business, and when we come back, we'll cross the flags, go halfway, and talk to Lenny Baticki, because next weekend, Tom, you and I will be at Charlotte Motor Speedway for round 4 of the chase.
We will.
The second group of 3 races to eliminate some drivers. So keep an eye on the phone lines, and you'll hear from Lenny Baticki when we come back. Right now, you're listening to Motorsports Madness on the Performance Motorsports Network.
You own a performance car and you know how to drive, but you want to learn real performance driving. Well, Bunky, get that car off the street and onto the track. Summit Point Motorsports Park, the Mid-Atlantic's premier road racing facility, located just over an hour from D.C. in nearby Summit Point, West Virginia, is the place to go, and you'll find that Friday at the Track is going to give you what you need. For less than a monthly car payment, you can attend this regularly scheduled one-day instructional event in your street car on one of Summit Point's 3 world-class road racing circuits. You'll receive classroom instruction, skid pad instruction in their cars, including front and rear skid control, and 4 20-minute in-your-car instructional sessions from a professional instructor. Have fun, go fast, and really learn how to drive. Call 304-725-8444 for class schedules and details. That's 304-725-8444. Friday at the Track at Summit Point Motorsports Park.
Every 30 minutes, another innocent person is killed due to a drunk driver.
My best friend. My brother. My poor grandchild.
My sister.
My father.
My husband.
My mom. My mommy.
Well, I've been afraid of changing, 'cause I've built my life around you.
Stop these tragedies before they happen. Don't drink and drive.
The Performance Motorsports Network is a compilation of shows about motorsports. From technical to controversial to just fun, everything you like about racing and gearhead stuff is right here on one internet channel. The Performance Motorsports Network. Tell your friends about it.
Hi, I'm Reed Sorensen. Racing has been a part of me and my family for as long as I can remember.
I had to make tough choices early on to get to the top. It took hard work and dedication. But it's those tough choices that help me prepare for challenges I would face as a Cup driver. Make the right choices today and be ready for the challenges tomorrow. This message is brought to you by the U.S. Air Force.
You're listening to Speed77 Radio on the Performance Motorsports Network. Now back to Jacob, Tom, and Kyle on Motorsports Madness.
Welcome back to the Madness, and Kyle Magda joining us for Hour 2 here on the Performance Motorsports Network alongside Tom Baker. I am Jacob Seelman, here with you at the round table on the Performance Motorsports Network, the voice of motorsports, and going to bring in a pretty fun voice. Always love having the Director of Communications for Charlotte Motor Speedway, Lenny Baticki, on the program, and it's pretty important because next weekend, Lenny, we go racing at Charlotte. It's our house. We're ready for it. Modifieds, Xfinity Cup. It's the final big weekend of the year for CMS, and we're just ready to have fun.
We are, and don't forget, get yourself in trouble with those ladies over there for the Better Half Dash. They're going to run as well next Thursday, so want to keep you in good steads with all those gals, as they're going to be out there framming and bamming and going at it hard, just like they always do in the Better Half Dash for the motor racing outreach event there as a part of that pole day.
That's always a fun charity event. You get the wives and girlfriends of NASCAR, plus Melanie Sell from MRO, who's just wonderful and does a lot of great work around the NASCAR circuit for drivers, teams, and fans alike. Put them in high heels, if I remember how we did this last year correctly, Lenny, and send them down the front straightaway to see who gets to the line first, if I'm remembering this process correctly. It's kind of fun to watch.
Yeah, that was a high heel dash. This is actually Better Half Dash, where they're in those Bandolero cars.
Oh, boy. I can see where this is going.
Yeah, there's going to be some kind of deal for them. But, that whole night is going to be special with qualifying and the rounds of qualifying for the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, getting ready for the Bank of America 500 as they run for the Coors Light pole. But I think, all of us are excited about the modified, the ground pounders coming in.
We're always excited about the modifieds. Tom gets excited about the modifieds wherever they are, but at Charlotte, running them on the quarter mile, Lenny, I mean, we talk about it every summer for the shootout, but there's a big difference between Legends cars on the quarter mile and the ground pounding modifieds on the quarter mile, because then you turn Charlotte Motor Speedway into, Bowman Gray Stadium for about an hour and a half.
Yeah, and I don't know who you guys are hearing, because I haven't seen the entry list, but, Priest has been there before, Burt Myers, he's almost always going to be there, and even got, local guy, Bobby Niesmer, who is really starting to make rumbles to where, a win might be a surprise to a bigger audience, but, to those that watch Bobby Niesmer Jr., who's based right there in Kannapolis, I mean, he could slide in there and take these big names and just drag them around the track for those miles and pull off a win there next Thursday.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, this is one of those races, Lenny, as well as I do. We've all watched races on bull rings before, and, it's really a bump and run sort of deal because there's not a lot of room to pass on the quarter mile. There isn't a really strong outside groove. It's very hard to run the top and make that work, although I've seen some drivers do it occasionally. It's almost a race, Lenny, where restarts become critical because that's the opportunity when the field's all bunched up to pick off 3 or 4 cars on a restart. So it's one of those deals where you almost hope, if you're a guy starting from mid-pack backwards, you almost hope for enough restarts to get yourself up to the front, and yet nobody wants a caution fest either, so it's kind of a strange sort of race, but it's always entertaining because the track's so tight, and you've got guys like the Myers brothers and Priest. It's an all-star lineup, really. Everybody wants to win at Charlotte.
They really do, and it's their season-ending championship night. It's a big deal. They get the crowd that's there for the pole night, and so much more goes on, and I got to take off my director of communications hat, put away my PRN hat, and just be the guy race fan like we all are, and say, I'd love to see him do the choose cone like we do at Summer Shootout. I think that'd be cool as all get out.
Yeah, okay, that would be entertaining. I don't know how cool it would be, but it would be entertaining. And
Entertaining,
we're
yeah. Hey, I wasn't saying it from a professional point of view. I'm sitting there with my cooler and my beverages in it now.
from the fans' point of view, it certainly would be interesting. And we're, of course, we're looking forward, hopefully, to being able to bring our Stock Car Steel SRI Motorsports show back out to one of the suites there next Thursday, and have a bird's eye view of what's going on in the quarter mile while we're doing the show. It's always a great time to do that, and combined with pole night, that's definitely a night not to miss at Charlotte. If you're thinking about coming in for the weekend, get in for Thursday night as well. Don't miss that. That's a huge night.
Oh, it's going to be big, and we're looking forward to having you guys up there, in one of those sky suites, being able to let the world know what's going on out there on that quick quarter mile with the ground pounders and such. And, I think it's going to be a magical evening, as long as we can come out from under this wave of water that's hit us the last 6 days down here. Grass will certainly be green when they get here.
Yes, it will be green on all sides, not just the other side.
You are so right. But, for all of us, our grounds crew does such a fantastic job. They've got most of the place already set to go, and the things that'll happen between now and the race will be mere formalities for our crew to get set. And, we can't wait for the fans. This rain will back off in a day or two and slowly get us into race week, where what a blast we're going to have from Wednesday. I don't know whether it's gotten out enough yet. And I guess being the director of communications, I ought to try to get it out a little more. Wednesday is Hauler Parade and NASCAR night at ZMAX Dragway. And that's going to be a fun event.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. We're going to have some fun, Lenny. And speaking of NASCAR nights and NASCAR drivers, I want to look ahead a little bit to Saturday night, which is, of course, the big show, the only night race in the chase for the Sprint Cup boys. It's also a little bit different for you guys because last year Charlotte was in the middle of the round of 12 for these guys. This year it's the opening round of the round of 12, which makes it a little more important, makes it, you want to be the first driver to punch your ticket to the round of 8. But, of course, last year we saw the drama. Keselowski and Kenseth get in their big fight. Harvick wins. Now you've got the drama before we even get to Charlotte. Harvick may not even be in contention for a championship when we get to Charlotte. I mean, you guys couldn't have really written this script out any better.
No, I think it's going to be fantastic, and I can assure you that our restart zone is already ready to go for anybody that wants to test O'Donnell and that group up above. I mean, wow. They're not going to let anything pass, and I think that's going to add to the intensity as well. You may have guys, screaming at the middle of the race, at the top of their lungs, because this thing is really cinching up to be an excellent Bank of America 500 Saturday, October 10th at Charlotte Motor Speedway. And, you combine that with a salute to Jeff Gordon, JeffLastRide.com, his final event at the track that he got his first victory. Now, Jeff hadn't been doing quite a whole lot, but he slipped the 7th in there on us yesterday up in New Hampshire. Could he kind of bookend that career with a win at Charlotte again?
I think we're all asking ourselves that same question, Lenny. And, you've watched Jeff's career basically from the start in a lot of the same ways that those of us in the media have, and been able to see what he's accomplished. I mean, he did get his first win in the 600 miler at CMS. I mean, it would seem the perfect bookend if he could close that career with a win in the 500 miler. I mean, from a fan's perspective and even from our perspective, how big would the history be and how big would the party be if the 24 could put it in victory lane on Saturday night?
Wow, it'd be a conga line from the racetrack all the way to Hendrick Motorsports, and the party would look like, Mardi Gras up and down Bruton Smith Boulevard there, and well-deserving for a great champion that's done so much for the sport. Gordon, this point of history that you're speaking about, Jacob, is not lost on a driver like Jeff. He's very aware of circumstances and such and his part of history, and to be able to punch that ticket right away at Charlotte, get himself, through the contender round and put him down into that last Elite Four, that's going to be something that he's got to target. Dover is an up and down. It can be any which way with the crashes that happened coming out of 2 at Dover. You're never really sure how things are going to turn out there. But when you get to Charlotte, you can work on that setup and harken back to those days when that rainbow car was going around and pull out a win just because you're that determined, that driven, and that focused of a champion like Jeff Gordon. It could be the night to write a great script for NASCAR as we go through the chase and come out at the start of the contender round.
I think it would be a lot of fun. And, you know, we always talk about the Cup race, Lenny. So Cup race notwithstanding, what's the one thing that you're looking forward to coming into this Charlotte weekend in about 8 or 9 days' time?
I really like Thursday. I like the drama of qualifying. I like the tighter format that qualifying is. I think we've all lived long enough to have seen enough of the one-lappers, and the change has been at least interesting and somewhat more dramatic how NASCAR does their qualifying. But I really love both of the companion races on Bojangles pole night. I like the better half dash for the drivers and how they're trying to become crew chiefs and coaches and owners and still be boyfriends and husbands and all of the rest. So it's very fun to see all of that interaction, that personal side that for the most part we don't get to see unless we're watching on some helicam looking down at the driver motor coach lot. And I like the modified. I love the intensity. I love that, you know, some of them basically pull up still on open trailers and get out and do the work themselves, work with their crew. I think it's the coolest day that we have of all of it. And that, again, is me as the guy sitting there with the beverages in the cooler watching. It is definitely an exciting event on Thursday.
It's going to be an exciting weekend. We're super pumped to be there next weekend. It'll be my third straight Charlotte event inside it all, as it will be for Tom. We're looking forward to it, Lenny. Always glad to have you on, and looking forward to bringing the radio to the House of NASCAR next Thursday night. I think that's going to be a lot of fun, and bird's eye view of qualifying doesn't get much better than that.
Well, if the fans want to join you at the Speedway, all they've got to do is go to charlottemotorspeedway.com. Great ticket packages right there on the front stretch. Be able to see all the drama and intensity of the NASCAR chase for the Sprint Cup Championship with the only night race, the Bank of America 500 at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Guys, come see us anytime. We can't wait for you to be there next week with us.
That's Lenny Batycki from Charlotte Motor Speedway, and we'll be seeing a lot of him over the next 10 days or so as we count down to, as he said, the only night race in the chase, the 500-miler at Charlotte Motor Speedway. We are going to be back in just a moment, and around the turn, going to talk dirt tracking with Steve Ovens, and how many more wins can Donnie Schatz notch this season? He's up to 30. We'll see if that number climbs higher when we come back here to the Performance Motorsports Network, the voice of motorsports.
How to be a great dad in 15 seconds. Bike ride, go fish, walk in the park, phone call, milkshake, play catch, picnic, fly a kite, tell jokes, laugh, talk, read a story, tell a story, bumper cars, swing set, bowling, pillow fight, cut loose, stay tight. Whew. Because the smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today. Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Media sales professionals with agency experience. If you're frustrated with your current position, unrealistic quotas, and inept management, if you're a sales machine and you simply will not take no as an acceptable reply, if you're looking for a rapidly growing company with unlimited sales potential for commissions in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, if you're searching for a high-tech, forward-looking, laid-back, but extremely professional organization who appreciate your skills and dedication, we have your next opportunity. Scorpion Radio Group is building a sales team of self-starters who are motivated. Your imagination is the only limit here. Call 717-749-0444 or email us at scorpionradiogroup@gmail.com. That's 717-749-0444 and ask for Sue.
You hear that? That's the sound of America's only sports car. That's right. It's a Corvette. But not just any Corvette. It's your Corvette. It's that who cares if there's traffic part of your day. And this can be you when you come to Cooper Corvettes. With 60 years of Corvettes to choose from, there's always a Corvette in your budget. And they'll service any Corvette you bring in. Cooper Corvettes on Route 1 just north of Quantico and Triangle. Call, click, or visit coopercorvettes.com.
How to deal with someone who says that's so gay. Outsmart them.
This party is like so gay. Totally.
Excuse me, but did you ladies know the word gay used to mean happy or excited? Then it became a word used to describe gay people. Then somehow it came to mean dumb or stupid, which is how you just used it, which is not very nice.
Ew, that guy is on the football team and super smart, and he totally hates us now. Totally.
When you say that's so gay, do you realize what you say? Knock it off. Learn more at thinkbeforeyouspeak.com.
Hi, the kids. It's time to get dirty on Speed77 Radio's Motorsports Madness. Here are your hosts, Jacob, Tom, and Kyle, with Turn 5 Live's curator of Casa de Pork Chop, Stephen Ovens.
The problem with Casa de Pork Chop is Steve and Tom were talking about prime rib during the break, but that's a story for another time. We want to talk motorsports here on PMN. Welcome back to Motorsports Madness. Jacob Seelman, Tom Baker, Kyle Magda, Steve Ovens now up with us on the Race Chaser hotline. And Steve-O, it's not a done deal yet, but at the very least, you have proven your point this season, sir. You said Donnie Schatz would break the 30-win threshold. Bravo. You get a cookie, sir. He broke it on Saturday night at Berlin in about the most spectacular way possible.
I mean, yes, he absolutely did, and I fear for how long I can really enjoy that cookie, because the rate that he wins races, we're going to be talking about 35 here not too long from now. But, I mean, yeah, and if you're Darren Pittman from the other night, leading, took the lead away from Logan Schuchart, looked to have the race in hand, got caught up with some lap cars later on that really evaporated his lead over Schatz, and going into turn 4, I mean, we're not even talking about going into the final set of turns, we're talking about the final turn, had a car length and a half on Schatz going into turn 4, and I don't know if the tires spun. I mean, I'm sure that those tires, as hard and slick as that track was, I'm sure the tires were burnt right down, but whether it was just lack of grip or whatever the case was, here comes Donnie Schatz blowing by and takes the win in the final corner. And if you're Pittman, you got to be just sitting there saying, what do we have to do to beat this guy?
Well, I think the short answer, Steve, is there's really not much you can do to beat this guy. There's now 11 races left, and for Clinton Miller to be successful and beat you in the bet, Donnie has to go 5 for 11, and you had a really good idea earlier that we want to put into practice between tonight's Motorsports Madness and tomorrow night's Turn 5 Live here on the Performance Motorsports Network. I like this. Instead of where in the world is Carmen Sandiego, we're putting a dirt track spin on this and going, where in the world will Donnie Schatz win next? So you wanted us to pick, I believe, the 5 races that we thought Schatzy had the best shot to win at, or that we think he's going to win at over the next 11 races to close the season, if I was reading this correct, right?
That is correct. They have, currently there are 10 races left on the schedule, maybe 11. I think I did leave one out there. But, yeah, I mean, and so he would have to do, 5 of these next 11. And I really think, as we look over the schedule, that it can certainly be done. It's just a matter of what tracks could it happen at. And so I guess, Jacob and Tom, being here on Motorsports Madness, I'm going to give you guys the floor first to see which tracks do you think that he could get 5 more at?
I want to go first.
Go ahead, Jacob, because I need to study a bit more.
You need to think for a minute. Oh, boy, we're overloading Tom's brain here, Steve. This is really simple for me, though. This weekend is the Williams Grove National Open, the Champion Race and Oil National Open in Pennsylvania, an event that Kyle Magda is rather happy about this weekend because it's in his backyard. But anyway, This is simple. Donnie Schatz is going to win 2 out of the 3 features at Williams Grove this weekend. Why? Because no matter how good the Pennsylvania posse is during the rest of the year at Williams Grove, Donnie Schatz kicks it up a notch at the National Open. It's $50,000 to win on Saturday night. It's the big show. It's one of the biggest races of the year that the World of Outlaws have. And Donnie's just good at Williams Grove in the month of October. I say he wins 2 out of 3 at Williams Grove this weekend. Don't ask me to tell you which 2 it's going to be, although I think one of them's going to be on Saturday. I say the newly announced show, Steve, at Weedsport, the last call at the port that replaces the Utica Rome show that the Outlaws had booked as the last points race before the World Finals. I say Schatz wins that one because he's eerily good at Weedsport, has been over the years. And then I say he sweeps the World Finals to put a incredible bookend to a season that's been really nothing short of amazing. And yes, you heard me correctly. I'm actually betting right now that Donnie Schatz goes out by winning the last 3 points races of the season.
Wow.
So I know it's a big call, but he's just darn good. And if you want me to throw a ringer in there and maybe he gets 36 on the year, Rolling Wheels Raceway Park, bookmark it.
I like all those picks. Mine are a little bit different, but those could absolutely happen. Tom, what do you think?
All right, I am actually gonna disagree with Jacob. I know that's not really a big surprise, but I don't think he wins either of the New York shows, and it's not that I don't think he can. I just want to leave open the possibility that this guy from New York, this Stuart Friesen guy, might just jump in a sprint car, and if he does for either of those 2 shows, I would predict a Friesen sweep of both of them. So because I want to leave that possibility open, I'm not going to make either one of them wins for Schatzy. I'm going to say he makes this easy. I'm going to say he wins, like Jacob, 2 out of the 3 at Williams Grove, and puts himself ever closer. Then I'm going to say that he's going to Lawrenceburg, Indiana, and win there. So that gives him 33 wins, I think, if I'm calculating right.
Yes.
And then when we get to the dirt track at Charlotte, I'm going to give him 2 out of the 3. I don't see a sweep.
No. Tom, keep in mind, Thursday's just qualifying night. There's only 2 features. Yeah.
Okay. Well, then I'm going to go say that he does not win 35 races. He gets the 34, and that's it. But I will allow for the fact that if Friesen doesn't run, he'll probably win at least one of the 2 in New York. I mean, let's face facts here. You can really see him sweeping the rest of the schedule, but I think we have to allow for the fact that somebody's going to get him once in a while. And every time Friesen jumps in the sprint car, he's up front. And, I would not be surprised to see him run both of those New York shows, and that would really make it interesting.
It really would. And Tom, I think that that's something that we can probably expect to see. Something that may, and we really have to look at the scheduling on this, something that may throw a monkey wrench into Friesen's plans is, I believe, he just won a race last night at Thunder Mountain Speedway, which is part of the North region for the Short Track Super Series. Yeah. That series comes to a close on Saturday, October 10th, and if he wins that, that's a $15,000 take for the point winner. And that versus running the World of Outlaws at Rolling Wheels, that would be a tough choice to make if they have to start that feature to win the championship.
I was going to say, is he right in the thick of the title fight there in the North region?
Well, he's leading. The question is, and they just ran that race yesterday, he is the point leader, but the question will be, will he need to start that feature event? And I would have to confer with Brett Deo on whether or not that is the case, but he was the point leader going in last night and beat all of the Thunder Mountain regulars, as was a shock to nobody really. And
I mean,
he won the Wade Decker Memorial, so just an incredible run there. But we'll see just what shapes out as they look forward to closing out the Short Track Super Series during the same week that Super Dirt Week takes place. So we'll see just what takes place there.
In that case, then I'm going to give them 2 out of the 3 Williams Grove shows. I'm going to give them Lawrenceburg for sure. And if Friesen misses Rolling Wheels, I'll give him Rolling Wheels. So that puts him at 34. Then he goes and wins 1 out of the 2 at World Final. Just sweep them both. I mean,
he's done it before, Tom.
I
and
know.
Let's not forget the 26th to 4th run a year ago in the finale at Charlotte, a race that if it weren't for a flat tire with 10 laps to go, he probably would have won.
Well, I don't disagree with any of that. I'm just saying I'm still saying it's not easy to sweep both nights at Charlotte, and there's going to be a lot of guys gunning for that.
Of course,
I give him 34, maybe with a chance at 35. I don't think he wins more than that.
Fair enough. I'm excited about it. And Steve, I'm so excited about the National Open this weekend. 3 features, 3 shots to win, 3 shots for the posse to come back and try to make one more hurrah this season. I mean, lest we forget, those guys are good in their home state.
Oh, they are, and a guy that won a race this past weekend, or the weekend before, a guy that I think you really need to keep an eye on this weekend. One is Greg Hodnett. They have had a great season in Pennsylvania this year, won a lot of races, as they have been the last couple of years with that team. He's a guy to keep an eye on, and don't count out Stevie Smith in a Freddie Raymer ride. That car has been incredibly a contender at several different races. I mean, when you look at Pennsylvania Speed Week and I just think going into the National Open, I mean, this is a race that Fred won on his farewell tour, and there's a lot of good history there for the Raymer crew. So there's 2 guys that I would keep an eye on here for the National Open.
Oh, and I always liked Stevie Smith. He's got 60-some-odd World of Outlaws wins over the course of his career. So he's old hat at this, 9th all-time on the series win list. And, talking about winners, Steve, there's another big one over the weekend that we haven't even gotten to that did something pretty cool in a late model out at Knoxville. Hang tight with us for a minute, my friend. I want to talk the Lucas Oil Late Model Knoxville Nationals after the break and get a little more dirt track conversation in. So if you'll hold tight, we'll be around the turn with more Motorsports Madness in a moment here on the Performance Motorsports Network, the voice of motorsport.
Parents, your son or daughter has had their license for a while now, but you want to make sure they're prepared for any situation they may face on the road. High school driver's ed doesn't teach them to drive defensively. They need to be prepared for any highway emergency. For less than a month's insurance, and a whole lot less, BSR instructors at Summit Point Motorsports Park in nearby Summit Point, West Virginia, will teach your son or daughter how to respond instantly and positively to unexpected situations on the road. BSR's specialized accident avoidance training teaches swerve to avoid maneuvers at highway speeds, ocular driving, which focuses driving attention on ways to avoid accidents, vehicle dynamics and feedback, skid control and skid recovery, threshold braking on straights and progressive braking on curves, and off-road recovery techniques. This is stuff driver's ed simply doesn't teach. So call BSR today, 304-725-8444. Give your kid the skill set needed to drive safely and responsibly on the highway. That's 304-725-8444.
You hear that? That's the sound of America's only sports car. That's right, it's a Corvette. But not just any Corvette. It's your Corvette. It's that who cares if there's traffic part of your day. And this can be you when you come to Cooper Corvettes. With 60 years of Corvettes to choose from, there's always a Corvette in your budget. And they'll service any Corvette you bring in. Cooper Corvettes on Route 1 just north of Quantico and Triangle. Call, click, or visit CooperCorvettes.com.
We're growing like crazy and need account reps who know their way around agencies, the internet, and social media. Got connections? Or do you know how to get to the decision makers? Are you fearless? We need you. Internet radio, or as we call it, wireless mobile radio, is rapidly becoming the place to be with almost limitless income potential. So contact us to get involved with the fastest growing professionally produced group of internet radio stations in the world. Your imagination is the only limit here. Call 717-749-0444. That's 717-749-0444. Or you can email us at scorpionradiogroup@gmail.com. You want to ask for Sue.
Hi, this is John Ondrasik of Five for Fighting, here for RAD, the entertainment industry's voice for road safety. You know, style is a personal thing, and your lifestyle is your business. But if you take it on the road, it becomes everybody's business. So please, plan ahead, designate before you celebrate. Friends, don't let friends drive drunk.
A public service announcement brought to you by RAD, the National Association of Broadcasters, and the Ad Council.
Time to get back to tonight's Motorsports Madness. Here are the only three of a kind that beats a full house. Jacob Seelman, Tom Baker, and Kyle Magda.
Okay, Tom, so I have a question here. Since we've still got Steve Ovens with us on the Race Chaser hotline, does that make us four of a kind in poker now?
Yeah, technically it would be four of a kind. Yeah, I would say.
Yes, I can still do math.
And definitely with Steve and I both in the room, it is a full house.
Yes. Definitely. That's a story for another day, though. Welcome back to Motorsports Madness. Jacob Seelman, Tom Baker, Kyle Magda, Steve Ovens here, chatting motorsports up around the round table, still talking dirt track racing. And if I had given you $20, told you to go to the casino and place your money on one person to win the late model Knoxville Nationals over the weekend, Tom Baker, who would you have put your money on?
For the Knoxville Nationals?
Yeah, the late model Knoxville Nationals, not the sprint car ones. We had those a couple months ago.
I understood that. I just think that, well, I mean, gosh, you could flip a coin, couldn't you? I mean, you know, there are several drivers who are having outstanding seasons at the dirt late models. It's almost, I mean, you look at the guys like the Bloomquist. I mean, I think, you know, you look at Kid Rocket, you got to look at probably 10 or 12 guys that you can put your money on, but I mean, I never want to bet against Bloomquist in any big race if he's entered.
Oh, no. Steve-O, please set him straight. If I gave you $20, told you to put it on one driver for the Lucas Oil late model Knoxville Nationals, who are you putting it on?
Jonathan Davenport.
Thank you.
I like 2-inch limbs.
Well, I know you don't like 2-inch limbs, but in this particular case, Steve, if you'd done that, you would have been wrong, sir. I couldn't believe this when I read it Sunday morning. I couldn't believe it when I read it Sunday morning. It was a Bloomquist car that went in victory lane. It wasn't Scott's car, though. Jared Landers wins the Lucas Oil late model Knoxville Nationals. I literally, Steve, got up out of my chair, did a double take at the headline and said, really? Are you kidding me?
Yeah. You talk about, you know, pulling the upset. And really, he's in a Bloomquist car. That's been a good team there. You know, he has certainly learned an immense amount from having that partnership. So, you know, when you sit and you think about all that, maybe it shouldn't be as big of a surprise as it was. But, I mean, with Davenport being so strong and winning, it seems like all of the crown jewels this season, it was definitely a shock to see Landers. But I'll tell you what, give a nod to those guys for putting it all together in one of the big late model races of the entire season.
Yeah, I think they took home a $40,000 paycheck, too, for winning that race. So definitely not a bad showing. And I do want to, Steve, give props to Davenport. He took the lead about 40 laps in. The only problem was the motor blew on him. I mean, he lost the race, but it was a scenario that I think for the first time all season we've seen him lose one that really, it was something out of his control. Yeah, absolutely. And that's unfortunate because, you know, when everything is in tip-top form, those guys have just been, you know, unbeatable. But, you know, that's the thing. I guess when you look at it at the end of the day, you know, they have had so much success and a lot of good luck this season that, you know, maybe the good luck just had to take one back on them there.
It always comes back eventually, and the thing is there are just too many races on that series schedule, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Steve, isn't Jarrett Landers the Bloomquist team that Mark Martin is affiliated with?
That is correct. That is correct. So you've got the support there from one of the greats, not only on a short track level, but at the NASCAR level as well. And you pair that support with one of the most prolific dirt late model drivers of all time. That is an incredible environment for Jared to learn, develop, and I'll tell you what. Now you give a Knoxville Nationals crown to that driver who's still developing, still getting better. I'll tell you what, you give that driver a little bit of confidence, and it's going to be a lot of fun to see what those guys can do the rest of the season. It won't be too much longer, and they'll be down in your guys' neck of the woods for the World Finals.
That's going to be a blast, Jake. I can't wait to see that race this year. I think that race is going to be a lot of fun, and I wouldn't make it a Jonathan Davenport benefit show. There are a lot of guys that run really, really good here at Charlotte in the late model, and I think that race is going to be wide open this year.
Oh, yeah, Josh Richards, for one. I mean, he's always good at the World Finals. Tim McCready, Jimmy Owen is always good there. So, World Finals is definitely not a Davenport benefit, but I so badly want to see him in a car just to see what he can do against the best of the best. If he can win a race at the World Finals, then you've capped your season off in a big way. And, Steve, somebody who capped their season off in a very big way just last night at the Millstream Speedway, Sunday night, the UNOH All-Star Circuit of Champions, Tony Stewart's All-Stars, for those who need it in layman's terms, have one race to go now at Eldora Speedway, but they wrapped up the championship fight on Sunday night, and Dale Blaney did what Dale Blaney does. Not only did he win an All-Stars championship, he went out, spanked the field, won the race, 12th of the season, 127 on his career, 6 championships. There's no denying now he is the best that there's ever been. And in my opinion, I think Dale Blaney has now cemented himself as the best there ever will be in the All-Stars as far as the touring sprint car series. I mean, this season especially, with the teaming up with Big Game Tree Stands, Todd Queering, all those guys, this has been like the Dale Blaney of old.
Oh, for sure. And here's how I compare it. You take Dale Blaney's season, and you take the season for the All-Stars as a whole. There's a lot of similarities to those seasons. Blaney teams up with the Team Muddy sponsorship, gets a good ride underneath him. When the beginning of the season, it really wasn't known how long he would have a good ride, and would he have to try and fill in with some one-offs until something better came along. So you compare that to all the success they had, but then you also take into consideration the All-Star Series as a whole. I mean, think about where we were 9-12 months ago with the All-Stars before Tony Stewart came in and essentially saved the day. I mean, you had drivers and teams pitted up against the officials of the series. There was questions of, drivers and teams being due back payout, and the promoter of the series going out on Area Auto Racing News with Lenny Sammons and calling out drivers and saying that some of these drivers were B and C list drivers, and now look where they are. The comparisons are just really incredible to look at, because
I don't know that there is any comparison, honestly, from where we were 9 months ago, Steve. It's really, really been fun to watch that series resurge this season, and I've enjoyed it. I'm glad to see Tony putting as much as he's put into it, and I'm excited for 2016 with that group. I think it's going to be another great building block. Just like another sprint car series that you really started the season not being very fond of. I want to get your opinion on this for a minute, because I wasn't surprised. I had a feeling this announcement was coming, but I'm a little irritated by it. I'll let you get your 2 cents in before I go off on a semi-rant here. The National Sprint League, speaking of Todd Queering again, there's that name, is starting a 360 tour for 2016. It's going to be a bunch of regional tours with kind of a national purse structure-ish. There's not really national points, but national money, I guess you'd call it. There's a lot of puzzling, a lot of questions, not enough answers, and in my opinion, a little bit of oversaturation of 360 sprint cars in that region of the country.
I'm not a fan. I guess I'm glad to see that the NSL didn't fizzle out after a handful of races, and I mean, it did become kind of the Danny Lasowski Invitational after a little bit. But I mean, here's the thing that I'll say. This past, or 2 weekends ago, Canadian Sprint Car Nationals, Oswegan Speedway, you had 65 360 drivers from all over the Northeast converge in on one event that saw Brian Howland come out the winner from the Empire Super Sprints and the Patriot Sprint Tour, and who will be a guest with us tomorrow on Turn 5 Live. But when you look at all the 360 organizations across the country, and certainly I'm more versed on the Northeast guys, but that is one area that I don't think needed to be oversaturated. I gave them enough grief when they came out with the NSL because I felt like there was enough out there to pick from. I will take a little bit back because it has done a great thing out in the Midwest as far as a 410 touring series goes. I think of guys like Lasowski and guys like Brownie and things like that. But when you come out with the 360 tour, there's so many well-established games when it comes to the 360s across the country. I'm gonna throw the brakes on this one. I'd throw a black flag for it if I could. It just, and like you said, Jacob, there's way too many questions and not enough answers.
Yeah, there's not enough answers as to how this deal is actually going to work for 2016, and I think they really need to start clarifying some of that quickly if this is going to be a successful thing for 2016. I have my opinions on it as well that are best saved maybe for some discussion on a future episode of Turn 5 Live, Steve, which, of course, airs every Tuesday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern here on PMN. So look forward to that, and always great to have you on to talk some of what's going on in the national dirt track scene. And boy, we just had a lot to talk about this weekend, and that's always fun.
And just think about this, Jacob. Next Monday night, we get to do our Super Dirt Week preview.
Oh, boy. It is that time.
It has crept up on us, but next week we will do our Super Dirt Week preview.
Yeah, I'm okay, Tom.
I was going to say it's the final Super
Dirt Week in Syracuse.
Fairgrounds, yes. So it will be a special one, no doubt.
It will be. We are going to step aside for a brief moment, and speaking of previews and picks and all them there things, when we come back, we're going to do just that here on PMN and get ready to talk a little bit of Kentucky and a whole lot of Dover as we look into our crystal balls and continue onward and upward towards the checkered flag. You're listening to Motorsports Madness on the Performance Motorsports Network.
Motorsports sales professionals. Performance Motorsports is looking to build a team of experienced media sales professionals to represent our programming to the industry's top companies, magazines, and racing series. If you have motorsports sales or marketing experience, know how to work with agencies, understand social media, and are incredibly creative when it comes to working with clients and promotions, then we want to hear from you. Top performers are richly rewarded. Your imagination is the only limit here. Call 717-749-0444. That's 717-749-0444, or email us at scorpionradiogroup@gmail.com. You want to ask for Sue.
Every 30 minutes, another innocent person is killed due to a drunk driver.
My best friend. My brother. My poor grandchild.
My sister.
My father.
My husband.
My mom. My mommy.
Well, I've been afraid of changing, 'cause I've built my life around you.
Stop these tragedies before they happen. Don't drink and drive.
Do you love the sound of high-revving motors and the smell of burning rubber? Do you want to get your car sideways right at the ragged edge of control? If you've always wanted to try drifting or learn to improve your drifting skills, Summit Point Motorsports Park, the Mid-Atlantic's premier motorsports facility, has the expert instructors and the specialized track to teach you how to drift. and the skills necessary to drift competitively. From skid pad to open sessions, Summit Point Motorsports Park has the safe and open environment that allows drifters of all skill levels, new to intermediate, to get sideways and smoking. With a focus on safety and the skill set necessary to drift competitively, Summit Point Motorsports Park's Drift Nirvana is just the thing for you. Call for your reservation today, 304-725-8444. Or for more information, go online, summitpoint-raceway.com, or you can email them at office@bsrinc.com. Drift Nirvana, getting you sideways the right way.
If you own a gun, you have a full-time responsibility. When you aren't using it, be sure it can't get into the hands of curious children, troubled teenagers, a thief, or anyone else who might misuse it. Your family, friends, and neighbors are all counting on you. Remember, always, lock it up. For more information on firearms storage safety, visit ncpc.org. This message brought to you by the National Crime Prevention Council, the Bureau of Justice Assistance, and the Ad Council.
We now return you to 2.5 Men on Speed 77 Radio's Motorsports Madness on the Performance Motorsports Network.
Tom, we can take Kyle's muzzle off now. He's not breaking the internet anymore. Anyway, welcome back to PMN. The power trio is in the house. Jacob Seelman, Tom Baker, Kyle Magda, as we get set to talk performance picks. Before we do that, Kyle, I want to talk a little Kentucky action, too. We'll talk a lot about the ARCA race there on Thursday's Stock Car Steel SRI Motorsports show, but definitely the Xfinity race was a whole lot of fun. We didn't really get to talk too much about that early in the show, but we'll talk to it with you here now, because the early part of the race looked like it was going to be an RCR benefit, and then when it was time to pay the money, the Penske 22 did what the Penske 22 does, and I love seeing Ryan Blaney win at Kentucky.
Well, first, it's kind of fitting that we bookend the show with the Kyle and Kyle show tonight. That's kind of what it's about. But, yeah, I mean, Ryan Blaney was in the right place at the right time. He even said in the post-race press conference, pretty much it was a sitting duck to be leading that race. Pretty much you got the restart, you got the push, and you cleared and you got the lead. That was it, and Ryan Blaney did that. He had the best car. I know during the one cycle green flag pit stops, he actually stayed on the lead lap. A lot of the guys like Brandon Jones and Brian Scott got lapped, had to take the wave around, and Ryan Blaney was already in the lead lap, so that helped him out. And yeah, I mean, he had the best car. It was kind of tough to see because with all the clean air and everything and the restarts, because Ty Dillon was leading with about 5 laps to go until the race's final caution came out, and then Ryan Blaney just did what Ryan Blaney does at Kentucky, and he wins. And that was his first time in the 22 car in 2 years, and the first time in the 22 car in 2 years there at Kentucky since his last win. So they sweep the year. Penske, the 22 team, they take both races. Brad gets the July race, Ryan gets the September race, and we're sitting here talking about the Penske dominance, and it continues at Kentucky.
Yeah. Tom, I want to go back to buy or sell for a minute and go to you on this one, because another Midwest track had an interesting rumor floating about this weekend. Buy or sell the rumor that the standalone Xfinity race in June at Chicagoland will end up going to Pocono for 2016.
I guess I'll buy it, because it doesn't, again, where there's smoke, there's usually some sort of fire. I don't think somebody would make this up. So I guess I'm buying that it's a great potential, but I wish I could sell it to the highest or lowest bidder. Why don't we go to a different track? Why don't we go to Hickory, or why don't we go to Greenville Pickens or Motor Mile, or someplace where we could get to a different audience, or what the heck, go to Bowman Gray or run them on the quarter mile. I mean, I just,
the K&N race at Bowman Gray is bad enough.
I don't know. I mean no disrespect to the folks in Pocono, but the racing's just not that great there. I mean, it just...
There is an Indy.
No, I just don't, I think we need to look at some things with the Xfinity series and bring some different tracks into the schedule, and maybe do an occasional real throwback by bringing it to a track where, okay, maybe we aren't going to sell, 80,000 tickets, but we're going to put on a heck of a show that's going to look great on TV. And there's certainly those tracks out there that could be possible for that. So I don't know. I'm not crazy about the idea as a fan, but I certainly buy that there must be a strong sense that it's going to happen, because it seems to be a pretty prevalent rumor.
Yeah, it really does, and I think that's going to be interesting. Final buy or sell before we get into our performance picks. Kyle Magda, buy or sell? The Xfinity Championship is now Chris Buescher's to win, based on the fact that he's hung on through the final standalone race of the season.
I'm selling that 100%, and I'll tell you why. Just the way that team has been performing lately, they've been not up to where they were. I really thought that this weekend would be that weekend where they go out and put on a great performance. They did get a top 10. They finished there, and Ty Dillon was second. Man, Ty Dillon could have won that race. We could be talking. Ty Dillon could be even closer to Chris Buescher in the championship, but I just don't know right now, because I thought that that race would have more implications, and Ty and Chase Elliott both finished ahead of Chris Buescher, so it looks like they're fading a little bit, the 60 team. I haven't seen that run that they had. It seemed like the 3 teams have been just a little better as of late, so I think it's his to lose right now. Just because I know Dover's this weekend, but keep in mind, guys, there was no Kyle Busch, there was no Kyle Larson. Those guys weren't in that race, so I think it's a little different this time around. And I think Chris is going to need another win before the season's over. Not sure that'll happen with all the Cup drivers, but yeah, that team needs to just stay consistent, run top 5 and top 10 every week, and try to outrun the 3 and the 9 car.
Okay, kids, let's go to performance picks, and we have 4 of them for this weekend of racing. The Camping World Truck Series is the redheaded stepchild, because they're in Las Vegas. K&N, Xfinity, and Cup are all in Dover, and by virtue of my ridiculous pick that I almost looked like a genius for about 30 seconds during the Cup race on Sunday with Clint Boyer when he was running in the top 10.
Seconds.
Yeah, well, and then and then he lost a tire and ran out of fuel and finished 27th. So by virtue of that, my lead is only 88 points in the overall standings, and I get to go first for this weekend. And I'm going to start with the K&N race at Dover because I can, and because I'm going to make this real simple and real easy. There's a driver in the field that's going for 3 wins in a row at Dover. He needs a win to even have a prayer of winning this championship, and I say he does everything in his power to win the title. Austin Hill goes to victory lane in the K&N race at Dover. Xfinity, anytime Kyle Busch is in the field, Kyle Busch is going to win the race. I'll take the 54 all day. Truck race in Vegas, I'm really, really torn on this. And you know what? This is going to be my not a 2-inch limb pick for the weekend, Tom, because I think there's a driver in the field that has a lot of talent. He's going to be in solid equipment, and I think he might actually surprise some people. I'm not picking him as my pick to win the race, but I'm picking him as a decent points pick. I'm actually going to go with a 21 truck. If you don't know the number, it's because it's a new truck, an old team, and an old face behind the wheel. Brennan Poole is going to be making his NASCAR Camping World Truck Series debut for GMS Racing, Spencer Gallagher and Company this weekend. And I like the 21 truck to get a solid finish. Brennan's not going to tear up the equipment. He's not going to put the truck in a position it doesn't need to be in. And I think he gets a solid top 10 this weekend. As for the Cup race, I'm going to ride this train until it breaks. The last time he had to win to advance, he won to advance, and he won to claim the Cup. And I'm going to say it. If I'm wrong, so be it. If he doesn't advance, so be it. But he's going to give it a hell of a run. Kevin Harvick does what he needs to do and wins at Dover. Kyle Magda, you're next on my list of pickers here tonight, so go for it.
Well, speaking of Kevin Harvick, I was 2 laps from winning the race at Loudon. So
yeah, I know you were, but you didn't.
I know. Well, it's sometimes fuel mileage and people goof up. We're all human. But, yeah, I mean, just going with the picks at K&N, this driver I'm going to pick, I have a lot of options with this pick, but this driver, guys, he had so much speed at Kentucky in the ARCA race. Got taken out on the first lap of the race. None of his doing. I'm going to take the guy who wins the race, wins the championship, William Byron. Just fast corners, fast speed. William Byron gets the job done. Let's see. Then trucks at Vegas, almost as a Kentucky again. Trucks at Vegas. I'm going to go on the 2-inch limb here and take Eric Jones, defending winner of the race as well. And then for Xfinity, let's see here. Since you already took Kyle Busch, and I'm not going to take him because I don't like to agree with you. Let's see here. I'll take Denny Hamlin in the 20. And then for the Cup race, Jacob, I was going to take Kevin Harvick. You took him, so I'll take the other 2-inch limb, Jimmy Johnson, because I said back at, I think after Chicagoland, that'll be the 4 or the 48 in Victory Lane at Dover, and I firmly believe that. So you take Kevin Harvick, I take Jimmy Johnson. So, yeah, just a big weekend coming up, and we'll see what happens.
By virtue of elimination, Tom Baker, that means you won the weekend, and you had no finishes worse than 4th. I'm stunned.
Well, I'm telling you, I've been just saving the car, saving the tires, and now that it counts, I'm on the charge and I'm catching up. I am going to start with the Xfinity Series race, and I know that it is very fashionable to pick Kyle Busch whenever Kyle Busch is in the race, but this is a track that I think may be just as favorable for one or two other cars, one of which is the 22 car. I'm picking Ryan Blaney to win the race. And I'll go backwards, go to the K&N race now. And, I really want to go with Landon Castle.
He's the only guy running
Austin
all
Hills.
3 races this weekend.
Yeah, I mean that is just such a fashionable pick to go and take Castle to just come in but honestly, I don't think it's going to be that easy. This is a much tougher series, and I don't think you just get in and go dominate, even if you are used to running Xfinity and Cup. I think he could well be in the thick of it, but I think William Byron is the guy that's going to go get the job done, and I think he's going to be a little. I think he's got some work to do after the ARCA race this past weekend. I think he's kind of at a point where he's sort of feeling like maybe he's got some redemption coming to him. So I think William Byron goes and not only wins the championship, I think he wins the race.
So you and Magda are agreeing.
We're agreeing on that, and I'm gonna stand with that because I have a very strong feeling about William Byron. So even though Kyle already picked him, I'm not going to deviate from that. Let's see, and we got the Sprint Cup race is the other race, and here again, I mean, this is a trap because Kevin Harvick needs the win, and Kevin's going to be checkers or wreckers. Kyle Busch needs an upfront finish. I mean, those two guys are going to be driving the wheels off the cars. But you know what? I'm going to stick with Joey Logano in this one. I really feel like this is a situation where Joey comes through and wins a race. But I'm also going to make this statement, and then I'll throw it to you. I really feel like somebody said earlier, I think it was Kyle Souza, that the chances of Joe Gibbs 4-car finale at Homestead, if we can just get Kyle Busch back on track here and get him through this round, I think the chances are very, very good for that to happen at this point, but I don't want to count out the Penske cars. I still do not see a Hendrick car making the Final Four, but we'll see how it goes. Am
I to assume that means since the trucks are on 1.5 miles, you're picking Matt Crafton then?
Oh, sorry, I skipped the truck race. They're way out in Vegas. I kind of forgot about them. You know what? I'll go with Crafton. But this is the 1.5 mile track where I think somebody like a John Hunter Nemechek could just go flat out, and race. I'm going to tell you, one of these, I still think there's a chance that Daniel Hemrick pulls one of these out too before the season's over. But I got to go with Crafton because here again, the title's on the line here, and he's you got to go through him to get it, and so I'll take Crafton.
All right, we're going to throw a checkered flag on this edition of Motorsports Madness and say that we're gearing up for a big weekend at the Monster Mile, a monster weekend, if you'd like to term it as such. But it's been fun. We've really hit the gamut tonight, and special thanks to Lenny Baticki for joining us live on the phone line. And as we close tonight, we remind you that every Monday night at 7 p.m. Eastern, you can catch our antics here on the Performance Motorsports Network as we talk everything from drag racing to NASCAR to open wheel and dirt tracks. So right now, for Steve Ovens, Joel Sebastianelli, Kyle Magda, Tom Baker, Big Mike behind the glass, and everybody else that makes it happen at Race Chaser Online on the Performance Motorsports Network, I'm Jacob Seelman, reminding you to visit racechaseronline.com for all of the latest breaking stories from around the world of motorsports, today's racing news, yesterday's racing history, tomorrow's racing stars. That's racechaseronline.com, and keep it tuned here to the Performance Motorsports Network for all the latest in motorsports programming and news. We're on the air every Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern. We'll see you next week, and keep it off the wall until we meet again, because we might just see you at the racetrack. Have a safe racing weekend. Good night.
You've been listening to Motorsports Madness with the Speed77 Radio Race Chaser Online crew. Stay tuned to Performance Motorsports Network for more race talk. For the latest motorsports news, visit racechaseronline.com. Motorsports Madness is a copyrighted production of the Performance Motorsports Network. www.performancemotorsportsnetwork.com. A member of the Scorpion Radio Group, Inc., and may not be rebroadcast, replicated, or saved in any media without the explicit written permission of PMN. Check out our Facebook page or our section on the PMN website. The opinions expressed on this program are those of the host, co-host, and guests, and do not necessarily reflect those of the management and ownership of either the Performance Motorsports Network or Scorpion Radio Group Incorporated, the advertisers, or the marketing partners. Be listening again next week when the madness returns on Monday night at 7 Eastern. Until then, keep it off the wall and keep the shiny side up.